Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss the 2015 version of Fantastic Four, starring, or should I call it Fans Four Stick? I don't know, it depends on you. Starring Miles Teller, Kate Mara, Michael B. Jordan, Jamie Bell, Toby Kebbell, Reg E. Cathy, and Tim Blake Nelson, and directed by Josh Trank. Now, before I get into this review, I heard a lot of critics were going really negative on this movie, like a 9%er on Rotten Tomatoes. There's just no way. I'll get into it in a few minutes, and people were against this movie because it's just not the Fantastic Four that they wanted. And how come? Well, I'll talk about it. And people are saying that the original is better. Give me a break. Let's get into it now. When we open the movie in the classroom, meaning Reed Richards and Ben Grimm as kids, and I thought Ben was going to beat up Reed and bully him around until they meet for the first time in the junkyard Ben's family owns, and Reed takes him to his garage to build the teleporting machine. Was a fine way to open the movie and show how Reed and Ben became friends. Adult Reed, played by Miles Teller, and adult Ben, played by Jamie Bell, show the teleporter and test it in front of the science board, and when they get disqualified from the science fair, a kid gets his model plane that Reed borrows earlier in that scene back and says to Reed he's a dick, which made me groan, by the way. It's so bad like that. Quite a bit. And Franklin Storm, played by Reg E. Cathy, and his stepdaughter Sue Storm, played by Kate Mara, get introduced. Other than the kid saying you're a dick, it was a fine scene for what it was presented. Reed joins the Baxter with Dr. Franklin Storm to build the teleporter, and I really do like these scenes, especially when we get introduced to other characters. I'll discuss in the next segment, and I also like how we get to know Reed a little bit and his codes. Dr. Harvey Allen, played by Tim Blake Nelson, is a character I feel bad for because he was supposed to be the Mole Man, aka Dr. Harvey Elder, one of the Fantastic Four's villains, and he just dies at the end of the movie. It's as bad as him becoming the leader in the Incredible Hulk, which I'll talk about more when I get to the Avengers series. Toby Kebbell as Dr. Doom, or Victor Von Doom, excuse me, is kind of a bad version of the villain of the Fantastic Four we all know and hate anyways. I'll talk about his Dr. Doom at the end of the show. I love Michael B. Jordan's Johnny Storm because he has charisma and he acts the part very well. And he looks like a hothead. He was the best thing about this movie in my opinion. So please throw away that whole racist thing about how Johnny Storm is black in this movie. Give him a break, guys. The moment Victor, Johnny, and Reed, who brings Ben along to a planet that has a title later in the film called Planet Zero, which terrible name by the way. So they enter Planet Zero and get the superpowers of stretchiness, that's Reed, invisibility, that's Sue, even though she wasn't on this mission, a firing torch, which is Johnny, a guy made of rocks, Ben, and one stays for a while on Planet Zero to get powers of Doom, and that's Victor, was a good way to show how they got their powers, unlike going into space as like astronauts in that 2005 version. So Reed, Sue, Johnny, and Ben get held by the government, and they don't know where they're at. And Reed tries to move to get Ben out at least of there, but doesn't, and he suddenly escapes. Was kind of a dick move of Reed, but he was pretty scared, I'll give him that. But leaving everything to Reed is complete nonsense. And being held by the government and fighting their fight and didn't make much sense to me either. I do like Reed disguised as another man who can fix a register and he can change his face. I thought that was a pretty good fooled you moment in my opinion. I did enjoy that moment. I also like the way how Ben headbutts Reed, and the Thing refuses to talk to Reed, and Reed says, "Does it hurt?" And Ben says, "I'm used to it," and In the same scene, Ben says to Reed, "I stopped believing in your bullshit a long time ago." Was a fairly acted scene, but not great in my opinion, just to be fair. And they find Victor on planet Zero, and they bring him back to the lab. And honestly, Victor as Dr. Doom looked like Jason from Friday the 13th. Can anybody picture that? Well, let me just show you what Jason looks like in case anybody knows what I'm not talking about. And compare it to this. Seriously, don't they look alike? Plus Victor with that mask and his eyes and all the green stuff. Like, what is that green stuff anyways? They ran into that while they were in Planet Zero, Reed, Ben, Johnny, and Victor, and kills everyone, including Dr. Allen, by exploding their brains off. First of all, that's a horror movie thing. Second of all, I really don't know how you can get away with that with a PG-13 rating for all the brain splattering all over the place. The fight between the Fantastic Four and Doctor Doom was not much of a fight. How is that? Well, Doctor Doom buries everyone with rocks, but not Reed. But they all escape, and Sue makes Ben invisible, so Ben punches Doctor Doom, and it does stop Doctor Doom, but I couldn't explain how, to be honest with you. So the Fantastic Four try to come up with a name, and they do a Man of Steel thing when they don't call him Superman, whereas here they never say the Fantastic Four. And that I felt was a mistake for this movie. Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 5.8 out of 10. I don't know how this got a 9% on Rotten Tomatoes. Like, give me a break. That's so baffling. How could you guys hate on this movie? I don't think it's that bad. It's just baffling how people think this movie is bad when Roger Corman's is a lot worse, in my opinion. But this has some quality special effects, in my opinion. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me for the final installment of the Fantastic Four, and I'm sorry that was a little late because I had to cover Punisher before the Netflix series. And be sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching. Watch some more videos, and hit the like buttons, and please leave a positive comment if you can. And until next time, it's clobbering time.